Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Uncensored. I'm Marien, your host from Yachts Mermaids. And for today, I have Chief Safety Officer Pablo Salas. Welcome, Pablo. Thank you so much for being here today.
Good morning, Marien. Thank you for inviting me in your program. I'm very happy to be here.
Yes, so I met Pablo in 2005, something around there, when I kind of started my yachting career, and he was the first officer on that yacht. And he has developed into a master unlimited. And the reason why I asked Pablo to come today is because he has the knowledge of yachting, and he also has the knowledge of commercial vessels because he has extended his career towards bigger vessels into commercial and cruise ships and all that stuff. And so he has a lot of knowledge, so I want to tap into it. And to be honest, also because he was one of the he said yes to coming to the show immediately and sharing his his valuable knowledge, which I find very, I'm very grateful, because a lot of the captains that I have asked to come forward, I find it very interesting how everybody on Facebook and on these forums, they're like number one talking and making comments and opinions. But when you ask them to actually share valuable knowledge, they're like, oh, I don't know, you know. So anyway, I'm so grateful that you are not afraid of speaking up and actually, showing up. So with that being said, the first thing I want to talk about is salaries. So in the yachting industry, there's been a lot going around talking about how the salaries have not been raised over the past, decade or more. And I did share with you some guidelines of what has happened in the past, I don't know, 15 years in the industry. And what I have found in those guidelines, that in 2005 there was a peak for captains and also chief stews actually, and then it started to drop down, and then it kind of started to come back up for while this is dropping down for chief stews and captain, then back up for chief engineers in 2012, and also for deckhands, and then that started to drop down, and then the chefs started to come up, and now it's kind of like in the plateau. And all the juniors positions have just been steady throughout, I don't know, 15 years. So my question to you is, do you encounter the same in bigger vessels, like salary guidelines? Is it just the same for the past 15 years? And why do you believe there hasn't really been an increase, but more of an actual drop? Because what I've been seeing now is that the salaries are actually dropping down. Even like captain salaries, like right now, because of the pandemic as well, like a lot of captains have had to cut down to 30% down or 20%, and also let go of some crew, even though there's a lot of hiring happening now, that things are kind of steadying. So yeah.
Okay, I think my current opinion regarding salaries. Normally, this is up to the market, companies, owners, ship owners, brokers. Depends. As you know, I left the yacht industry almost 7 years ago. Since I've been working on large cruise ships. Essentially, in large cruise ships, the policy is based on grades. These are measured every contract by the supervisors. So the company carefully are issuing appraisals based on competence, skills, behavior, talent, goals, uh, and also this is up to the result and commitment as well. So in deploying maintains the standards required by the company, the salary normally is increasing around 3% per year. But if you consider the salaries on the yacht industry, I think, in my opinion, are quite high. And if you notice that during the last 10, 15 years, they didn't upgrade so much, is because I believe, my personal opinion is that they just realized that this was a very high standards. So as we had now the MLC, the Maritime Labor Convention, in force since 2006, and they are also including the minimum of everything. This is about minimum salaries in order to
Wait, I
consider a
want to
decent job.
interrupt you so people understand what the minimum wage by this standard is, which by the
Hmm.
way, people is 641, who was just raised
Yeah.
recently as a monthly salary. So yes,
Hmm.
looking at the minimum uh, compared to MLC to what we're getting as yachties, yes, is absolutely, high
Totally different.
standard salaries.
Mm.
Yet my question to you is, um, when you start breaking down the salaries hourly, most of the time it doesn't even reaches minimum wage salary depending on the country that you come from.
Hmm.
And I think this is also a thing because I read in one of the articles that the fact that the yachting industry has become more attractive to poorer countries, citizens, right, of countries that are like third world countries or whatever. Obviously, their minimum wages in those countries are very, very low compared to America, Europe, etc. Even Europe, depending on where you are. So some people say that this has to do a little bit with the salaries not actually being raised because so what's your opinion on that? Do you think that really matters or it doesn't matter?
Nationality matters, of course. They will check. I mean, what is the standard? What is the salary that could be competing with you? So that's why I said, okay, you can have some kind of specific tables set up, but at the end, also this is something that's going to be during the negotiation. Nationality.
So basically what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you're hired, depending on your nationality, they'll try to potentially give you a certain amount of money, and then if you take it, well, that's on you.
Yeah, actually, this is easy on the yacht industry. On the commercial ships, this is different story because you have something is set up on a even on cargo ship. Even on cargo ship, for sure, you're not gonna get the same salary for an officer from Philippines than is if the officer is from Germany. For sure, it's a different standard.
Okay, so it's very individual depending on your cultural background and not so much on what license you actually hold or where you're working. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, this is up to the companies, of course, the other companies. But I mean, on the cruise industry so far, during my experience, I noticed that this is the same. I mean, it doesn't matter if you are Canadian, if you are Ecuadorian, if you are Filipino. If you are getting the position, you get the salary that you deserve as per the company's um, table. But on commercial ships, on yacht industry, this could be different story. Yes.
Right.
Because I've been on cargo ship, I've been on yacht industry, and I've been also on commercial ships.
Because these big yachts that are being built are, huge, 100 meters, 85 meters, 140 meters. And obviously, these are commercial licensed vessels and they require a lot more crew than a 50-meter.
But they are still pleasure ships, private.
Well, they
That's why
are,
you have
but they're
that's why
still
you have different regulations. For example, it's not the same if you're gonna get an inspection or audit if you're working on than 30 meters yacht private or if it's 130 meters cargo ship or cruise ship. That's totally different story. You have much more audits. The international conventions will be enforced, apply to your job. So the level of the stress is higher for sure.
so
If it's
basically,
tanker ship, it's even worse.
even though they are the same tonnage, let's say,
Yeah,
and length,
yeah,
still because it's a pleasure boat is handled a little bit different than if it's a real commercial use vessel. That's what you're saying.
yeah. Of course, because you will be facing different challenges.
Right.
If you are working on a tanker ship, gas carrier, LNG, you're gonna have vettings. You're gonna have inspections in every port terminal. So the level of the workload is very high. If you're working on a cruise ship, like my last cruise ship was for 4,000 guests, so you are in charge to make sure that 26 lifeboats, each lifeboat capacity 150 people, plus fire equipment. It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, and then if you notice, if you remember on a yacht industry, on a private yacht, You are not obliged to prepare drills like training. This is up to the captain. This is up to the people. It's like kind of a more, it's relaxed. But you are on a commercial ship, a passenger ship. This is something that you need to be in compliance daily,
So
weekly.
you're saying that even if a yacht, a pleasure boat, right? Even if it's under commercial license because it's over 500 tons, it still doesn't have to comply with a lot of.
Depends of the activity. If you check on the documents, you will see if the ship is they categorized as a passenger ship, that's a different story. But if it's a pleasure ship or pleasure yacht, you're going to be in a different life for sure.
Okay, so then a lot of things that are MLC will not, um, you don't have to comply to because you're not under a passengers or registration, as a cruise ship, let's say it is.
Well, the MLC 2006 is also applicable for the yacht industry, but it's not something that is going to be like a huge benefit because it's like because the yacht industry is way up, way different as the standards. But of course, is included as this is also those are ships, those are people who's working at sea, so that's why the people is involved. If somebody wants to be using or complain, or you can do it. But I mean, currently the Maritime Labor Convention is worldwide, and despite an industry is also part of the the yacht industry is engaged on MLC.
Well, I guess you are engaged if you are over 500 tons. If not, you don't really have to. Uh,
But this is also about the flag state. Just to give an example, if you're working on a ship with these Bahamas or like the red flags, normally yachts, those countries are part of the MLC. But if you're working on a ship from my nationality, Ecuador, you don't need to be in compliance with MLC because Ecuador never signed the International Convention MLC. Because until now, this is kind of a suggested convention. It's very important. MLC it was created by the ILO, approved by the IMO, and is actually the fourth pillar of the considered one of the most important international conventions, together with the SOLAS, MARPOL, and STCW.
right.
But it's still like a recommendation. But soon, I believe, will be kind of part of the obligation of the countries.
Right. So basically, this is where state flags come into place, and if the state flag, right, the country of the state flag that you're in, what is part of the MLC, then that means that more than likely, even if your vessel is not commercial licensed, there is some sort of gauging under those guidelines, which I
Because
think is true.
some
Because
of the countries, they are not, so they don't need to be in compliance with the MLC.
exactly, they don't. But that's the thing. Like my question is, even though if you're not commercial, you don't really have to. And when I mean commercial, it's like over 500 ton. If you're less than 500 ton and you are in a flag, let's say Cayman, or let's say Cayman, even though you're not commercially registered, because that country, that flag state, it's part of the MLC. Even though you don't really have to comply to commercial requirements, there is still some sort of like gauge between MLC and the flag state. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, let me see. Let's just try to think in a country that is not part of the MLC.
Mm-hmm.
But this ship has international ships. Let's imagine that this ship they don't have the agreement,
Mm-hmm.
but they have ships sailing all over the world because those ships are tankers. Okay, they have this kind of flag. The country is not part of the MLC, but these ships are visiting ports where the MLC is approved, is enforced. So they need to be in compliance. Doesn't matter if the country is not part, but as long as this country is visiting other countries and those countries are part of the MLC, they need to be in compliance.
It's such a tricky thing.
Yeah,
Everything is all like, there's so many loopholes, there's so many different things, and this is an entire show we can just go on and go on about.
mm-hmm.
So just to make it like do a little bit of a summary, basically, if you are working on the commercial licensed vessel that is on that has to be complied by MLC, your minimum wage is $641
Yes.
by law.
Mm-hmm.
There, so basically, as a yachty, say thank you that you have the salary that you have, because in reality, you have really high salaries.
Yeah.
And compared to cruise ships, we do have really high salaries as well. Now, my question is, if there is somebody who says, no, I don't care, like we should be getting paid more, how do you go about asking to be paid more? So, and I'm not talking about the obvious answer of like, well, talk to your captain, you know, blah blah blah, like ask for a raise. I'm talking about as a seafarer, like as a whole, like how do seafarers, you know, you that are in a commercial vessel, me that I'm on a yacht, like how can we get together, or is there a union, you know, already implemented to raise that minimum wage, which really is so ridiculously low for anybody.
Yeah. You know which is the nationality with the most, the majority of the seamen all over the world? They are from Philippines.
Yeah.
And so that's why Philippines is part of the Manila Amendment in the STCW, and they are part when they need to do some kind of implementation or some amendment. They are inviting Philippines, but Philippines they have a different standard. So that's why also the authorities or the people who is leading this big organization or these big decisions, they are inviting countries that actually they will be happy. What this is what I think, because you're not going to invite, let's see, United States of America for this. Maybe some of them, but it's not going to be like the population of the people working at sea, because they don't represent this number. The majority of the seamen are from Philippines in the world.
Okay.
So in that case, it's going to be like a really good negotiation. So if you check the standards on a commercial activity, the salaries. I mean, if you're working on a tanker ship, VLCC, very large cargo crude, you are captain there, you can expect a salary of $15,000. And you are working in a big ship, tanker, considered very dangerous cargo. You need to be, always checking and in compliance with several conventions. You will have vetties in the ports. You have a stress as no tomorrow, but the salary is not going to be never as the salary that you're going to get on a yacht. You're not going to get this kind of stress. That's why I think when these salaries, yacht industry, they created, they notice after experience, after checking and learning about the market, that they just create something really good. So that's why they say, no, we don't need to be increasing every year or just every 5 years, because we are still far away from all the standards.
Right. Which is
Even
true.
on the cruise ships industry, if you get the captain of the biggest cruise ship of the world, with a huge responsibility, you're not going to get more than $25,000 per month. That could be the top of the top. If you find working in a private yacht and a big yacht, easy, you can get even more. Depends of the owner, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, and that is true, because I remember I met a captain who was on, it wasn't even that big of a yacht. It was like I don't know, like a 60-meter. It wasn't even that big. And he was getting over 25,000. And he was very sad because the owner just like he passed away, and he was like, oh my God, there goes my salary. Because he knew it was going to be really hard to get that amount of salary anywhere else. But they had a relationship of, working together for 15 years, which that is another thing that what I read is that the reason why salaries are also not being raised to many people is because they're not sticking to the same job, right? So they don't have longevity in one vessel. So obviously,
Yeah.
when you have longevity, that will create more of a what do you call it? Not bonding, but relationship with the owner, with whoever you're, working with, and that will potentially give you an increase of salary. But a lot of people, every 6 months, every year, they change boats for whatever reasons. Some of them are valid. And then it's hard to go to a new boat and then say, hey, I want more money, because actually you have never really proven, right, what you're capable of doing on that vessel.
Mm-hmm.
I think longevity is a big one. And I think that in commercial vessels is more than likely that you guys show longevity than yachties.
Yeah, actually, yes. Let's see. I think also it's because this is about the offering and demand. You are a ship owner, so you have a, let's say you are operating a yacht, so you need a crew for a yacht. So once you are just posting an announcement that you are needing like deck hands, you just need 2 deck hands, and suddenly you are getting 100 candidates. It's also like that. Okay, I have 100 candidates from a bunch of nationalities. So you have the chance to check, and then you will have the chance and the power to set up the salary. Okay, because you say, okay, I'm gonna just give you like let's see, $2,000. Oh, let's see, this one guy from South Africa, maybe he was a 2,000 deckhand, and maybe it's okay, maybe not. But if this guy is coming from Honduras, you say, oh yes, of course,
Yes.
because he's gonna be in the middle, and now you have seamen all over the world. Everybody now is working. So that's why it's also something, another issue, because there's a lot of people, a lot of schools all over the world, a lot of maritime academies. So you are getting people from different countries. You have people from China, a lot actually. So if you are going to be working, and if you have people who can say, no, I can work, no problem, 8 months on board, no problem, and I can go home only for 1 month in a year, for sure, you have something serious to fight.
Right. So,
Unless that you demonstrate that you are special, your capabilities, experience, or not. I need this engineer because he is the one who knows, and I don't care about the other 20 engineers. I need this guy. Okay, in that case, you're going to be negotiating your salary because you already have some kind of experience, and you show on the market that you are special or you are important. But nobody is indispensable. Everybody could be replaceable.
yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
So, talking about licenses, one thing that we have seen is that even though salaries are not really on the rise, they're very plateau. Schools are just going off the roof. And not only so many new schools, but actually to get a license is very, very expensive, especially on deck. Like if you're trying to work yourself up to um, captain, master, if you're trying to work yourself through the engine room, these schools are very, very expensive. Like you spend thousands and thousands and thousands of
Yeah,
dollars.
yeah, I know.
You need to have a lot of sea time. And so one thing that we talked about previously off the show was that one of the benefits, because let me retract a little bit. What they have shown in yachting is that even though the salaries are not on the rise, what they have seen is that 60 meters plus are starting to give more benefits to crew, which before they didn't really have. So with that is like the the obvious, like health insurance, all this stuff. Obviously while you're on the boat, not if you're like off the boat. Then you also have the benefit of the 13-month being paid as a bonus. You also have the benefit of education being reimbursed. But again, this whole education thing being reimbursed is only for the people that actually say, I'm going to stick to this program for a long time. And then while you're doing your time, then they start reimbursing you. So one thing that you did tell me was that under the MLC, um, they have to pay for your education, or at least your continued education. How does that work? Am I correct or am I mistaken?
Well, personally, I believe that some of the strong benefits, like bonus, also trainings, insurance, scholarship, are mostly for senior officers.
Okay.
This is what I realized. Privilege are not available for middle positions and lower ranks.
Okay.
And then depends also the department. On cruise industry, marine operations, which is deck and engine, are actually, you can say that they are like, you have like privileges. Courses, trainings, okay, they pay for the trainings required by the IMO to update your license. So
Okay.
they are paying. But if you need to, like a hotel department, you need to pass a three training, that's going to be up to you.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, while you're under that company, and you're in a senior position and you're required to update your license, MLC says they need to pay for that.
Yeah, actually, they are doing that. They are covering, okay, how many courses you need to cover in order just to update your license? 7. Okay, 7 courses I will pay for you, and you will bring the certificate. So we're going to renew your license. So because we need to be in compliance. So this is something that is happening. But on a yachting, this is not really necessary because, I mean, regulations are pretty different. So if the owner said, yes, I want to do that for my people, yes, he can do it. But actually, it's not going to happen because if it's a pleasure boat, it doesn't matter if it's a 70 meters long. It's a
Right.
pleasure.
Right.
On the certificate, it's pleasure. It's private. It's something like it's not being like in compliance. There's nothing.
So, and this is the big thing here. It's like even if your yacht is commercial license,
The
because it's a
activity.
pleasure boat, the
Yeah.
regulations are going to be completely different than a real commercial license vessel as a cruise ship or a tanker or something like that.
But
So,
if you have a yacht, which is for charters, I mean, people pay to be on that yacht, and you have 2 charters per month, that's a different story because that's going to be
that would
passengers.
be the same as a
In
cruise
that
ship.
case, you need to work and you need to be in compliance with the international regulations. You will have to pass the, the, the inspections, for passenger ship,
Right.
passenger safety, annual certificates, all this stuff.
Okay. So, so as we can see, there is some benefits, and I think like for the most part, a lot of yachts do get benefits. At least the ones that I've been on. I think their owners are, for the most part, nice enough, to want to give to their crew. Especially, I think now more than before, but obviously there's a little bit of everything. So my question to you also is what I have found when it comes down to salary, and this is a little bit more of a personal thing, not so much regulations, is that, for example, I've been on boats where I as a chief stew have been paid more than the chief engineer and the mate, and people are like, how is that even possible? And this is the real answer. I value myself differently than they do.
Mhm.
So when it comes down to, like you said, salary is also a negotiation. So when you're talking to the person who's in charge of deciding your salary, it's up to you as an individual to negotiate that salary, um, and where you want to head. So obviously, I have a very different standard of what I believe I should be paid. So I negotiate what I think I'm value,
Mhm.
and they did that on their own. Obviously, they value themselves less than I did. So this is where I just kind of want to bring it up because a lot of people, they think it's all like guidelines, and it's really not. It's also depending on the individual because, like what you say, especially cultural backgrounds. If I come from a place where $2,000 is like a lot, for me that would be like, wow, I didn't even know that I could even get that. So I'm gonna say yes without negotiating even a higher salary that I could potentially get. So yeah, just kind of like, what's your opinion on that? Is that something that actually does work the same way in commercial as because this is like in private?
Let's see, just last week, I am on a chat of merchant marine officers. And then I was reading one of the guys was complaining that some of the third officers are accepting jobs with only $850 per month. So
800.
normally $850, and they are third officers working on small tanker ships. And they were very upset. They say, "How can these guys being accepting this kind of job?" And then, if you notice, for example, in Galapagos Islands, one of the ABs is making $1,000 per month. Galapagos is a really good place for working if you check salaries in different regions of the planet, considering that you're going to have a very short time on board and really good time at home. And then one of the guys of these federal officers, he replied, okay, so you give me the job. I have now a wife and my wife is pregnant, so I don't have a job. At the moment you see the situation. Of course, the companies now is they are abusing at the same time. See, the previous salary used to be for third officer $2,500. Now they are just offering $850. But this is also about situation. Who knows how is going to be the standards after this pandemic? But the people is accepting because if you have no job and you have necessities, it doesn't matter if you have like really good background. That's going to be also as per the situation, and the current situation is really, really complicated for everybody now.
Yeah, which I think that's part of because right now we see a lot of salaries being dropped, and people are like, "Oh my God, like what's happening? Like why are trying to pay a first officer or first mate or whatever $2,000 or whatever?" But the truth is, like what you're saying, certain crew do have necessities, and they will take it because it's just like they don't care, like they just want to have a job, and even though it does not, it's not the right thing. And I think that these people are benefiting from what's happening today and just, taking advantage, like you said. I think that's really true. But then again, I guess it's also down to the individual of how they want to negotiate their salary at the end of the day. There is a standard guideline that you can base it on, but that doesn't mean that you have to get the minimum or the maximum. You could get more, you could get less. And I think that's, these guidelines and all this stuff is really awesome. But at the end, is you as an individual, how you want to negotiate your salary doesn't really matter. And looking at the minimum wages, well, you definitely are making a lot more money than, what's supposed to be minimum. So then I think we're going to wrap up the salary because I think we gave a good overview of what's happening in both worlds and how to handle that. And by the way, to the viewers, if you're watching this and you want to comment about it and you have a different experience, by all means, please let us know. So I want to get a little bit more serious and talk about sexual harassment and sexual abuse. So there's been a lot of this topic. This topic has been really alive for a good amount of time, especially with the whole Me Too movement a few years ago. But it seems like the Me Too movement has arrived on yachts for some reason. People are finally saying, I'm going to speak up about it. I'm not going to, anymore be silent. So my first question is, and also this includes mental health as well, because there's a lot of mental health, sexual harassment, sexual abuse, bullying topics happening on yachts. And as a captain, what has been your experience on this situation, and how have you handled them?
Well, I never experienced working as captain something like this.
But what I can say, like something minimum.
Yeah, but I mean, I've been on a ship we have this kind of issues, but not as captain, only as one of the bridge officers. And but up to the companies and the cruise industry, this is zero tolerance, of course. No excuses and no options. And I believe that's in charge of the HR department. Of course, security department will be in charge of the whole investigation process. And but this is also depends also of the hiring process, as you said, mental issues or mental health. You said, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that you need to make sure to employ people is that people is as healthy as much healthy as possible. Not only on the body, you know that you need to pass a medical test, medical process, plus psychological test as well.
On cruise ships.
Yes, on cruise ships is a very
you don't have that. You only have the
Yeah.
one, which is a joke.
At the moment now is very, I think it's very tough. Actually, I I think these guys from HR department are doing a great job, because if you are hiring 2,000 crew members, and if you expect to have maybe one issues in a month, that's a good number.
Right.
Because I mean you are dealing with a lot of crew, so that's why the process must be very very carefully follow it. Just the people who's gonna be choose to work on a cruise ship, it doesn't matter the department, must be in the best conditions as possible. But of course, once this is happening, this is zero tolerance. Normally, is the executive committee, which is held. I mean, the master, the chief engineer, the staff captain, the HR manager, they are in charge to follow and to make sure that the investigation will be done and completed using all the resources and witness and all stuff, just to make sure that they will understand if it was like a real sexual harassment or a big problem, involving alcohol, drugs, whatever. And then, of course, this is going to be, serious consequences.
Okay. And what are those serious consequences could potentially be?
Because this is everybody's aware of that, because you are following a training. Normally, you're going to be getting this training every 2 years. So you need to go and get the training for all about sexual harassment. Just this is something like it's like a brainwash for you.
Every
So
crew.
this is telling you every single problem that you can face in case of this. You're being accused of the sexual harassment. So you can be revoked your visa company, if especially if the company was in charge to process your visa, your U.S. visa or your Schengen visa. And also you can be facing problems with the authorities. You can end up in the police. So this is because it's considered as a crime. So people need to be very very careful. So that's
So
why once you really understand what could be the consequences, people is like very aware, because they know that it's zero tolerance, and your life and your not only your career, your life could be, I mean,
right. So
messed up.
when you talk about training, this is a training that the actual company does
The
for
company does. The
crew members.
company does.
Okay.
Every single crew
So
member. I mean, especially new hires, you need to spend at least almost a month in the training,
wow.
because you're gonna get trainings about smuggling, drugs, sexual harassment, mental health, also mental health. How is the experience to live, to work with people from different nationalities, different cultures, different languages, different, I mean, aspect, different faces, different races. So this is something, and different sexual, orientations. So this is something that needs every 2 years. You need to pass these trainings every 2 years. And once you
Let me
complete the
ask you a
training, you
question.
need to sign a document that you understood and you accept. So if you are just breaking these rules, you are done.
Now, my question to you is: this trainings is something that has anything to do with regulations from MLC?
No, this is company's
This is
policy.
something private of the
Company's
company.
policy, yes. Hmm.
So when it comes down to MLC or any of this, four pillars, is there anything that they're regulating when it comes down to?
Yeah, it's basic, but it's very basic. So that's why, I mean, these cruise companies are like above and beyond on this area. They're very, very critical, very sensitive. So that's why they create a system which is for everybody. It doesn't matter if it's the master, he needs to pass the trainings. It doesn't
Okay.
matter if the chief engineer, everybody needs to be in compliance. So you sign the document, and then every 2 years you are updating, you get the new information. So you have no chance to say, no, I never knew about it. No chance.
So what are the basics regulations for MLC or even flag states?
No, this is about you need to create some good atmosphere of job, and then people need to respect each other or something like that. It's not something like, I mean, you have
Like
like,
something like the social responsibility of the STCW
yeah,
thing?
and this is included on the basic training on STCW. So
Right.
this is pretty much, they are just in compliance, that people need to be in compliance with this training, social responsibility, and
Right,
one
which is
of my
kind of
here
like
is,
a quick reminder, hey, behave,
mm,
but doesn't really train you in how to handle these situations and all this. So as a captain, in your license, career, right? As your the training, do you actually get trainings on how to handle, not the ones that you're getting through the company, but as a captain, uh, do you get trainings on this, on how to actually uh, handle mental health and sexual abuse on board? Like, are you trained to be able to handle these situations?
Actually, not really. What we need to know is about the company's policy. What we need to do in that case at the time, because this is something is if you have a person or a crew member who has some big issues, you just really realize that he's drinking too much, is too much active, or is too much in silence. No, depends. You need to always, what we need to learn, and this is something and it's like a training, just to recognize people who is showing some different attitudes, some different kind of personalities. It's strange. If you see something, say something, which is something and is not matching. People need to just keep in a normal way to react, to just behave. But if you see something like going down, going up, then is when we need to really check and then report. And professionals will take care of the situation, not us, actually. What we need to take care is like basic stuff. But if the situation is just moving some place that is not for us to escalate, immediately report to the company, and the company will assign professionals for different aspects.
Right. Do you think, as a captain, marine schools should implement training on, like a good training, a more extensive training on how to handle crew members with mental health, with because, like, when we're talking about mental health, it doesn't mean all of a sudden you're a psychopath. You know what I mean? It's more of like all of a sudden you're on board, you are at sea for a long time, we're working long hours, maybe something happened in your personal life, and all of a sudden you're just going down this spiral, and your mental health is being shaken, and then you become depressed, and you don't say anything because you don't want to be the black sheep, or you don't know how, or maybe you even think as a crew member, oh well, if I say something, they're going to think that my performance is not going to be as good because I'm being, having these feelings, because so, and this happens all the time on board, and I don't think commercial vessels are
No,
you know
no, yeah. We have people who commit suicide, who is drinking a lot. This is also happening.
right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like everybody from the most important, not everybody is important on board, but I mean, depends of the position. For the higher ranks to the lower ranks, everybody is learning how to recognize people around us that is not feeling good, that is experiencing some kind of personal problem or some kind of issue. This is something that we are all the time receiving this kind of information just to make sure that, and this is something that we are learning, and it is not just because you're going to be like, I mean, spreading rumors or not, going directly to the person, the supervisor, acting straightforward, and then, okay, I see my roommate is doing this or is acting like this, and I am concerned about him, about her, that they maybe is experiencing some kind of big issue or problem. So that's why immediately supervisor need to react and then to check what's happening in order just to avoid something serious. We experience men overboard very often, actually. Not, this is not a law, never happened. No, very often crew members decide to jump off the ship. What happened? The pressure. So this is something, and it's really, really um, important. So that's why everybody it's just not about the captain. It's just at least to recognize someone who is experiencing something, and then check and escalate, address to the professionals, to the company, and doing whatever is possible on board. On board, we have people, psychologists, we have doctors, we have HR professionals, but at the same time, they have assistance, shoreside assistance as well. So, I mean, it's kind of more organized. I mean, it's super organized. There's like if you compare with the yacht industry, which is not. So this is depends of the company. On a yacht industry, normally uh, you have a lot of beautiful ladies working. I mean, for the guests, and maybe could be not so well organized. So that's why the sexual harassment at some point is happening more often than on a cruise ships.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's not happening. It's happening, but people knows that it will be a problem, serious
Right.
problem.
Which is so loose on yachts because there's no real regulation towards it. And I think that, you know, yachts do lack training. And when you don't have the knowledge and the understanding, um, like you said, you know, you're constantly being told, look out for this, look out for this. So you're like, you're training yourself to really be on the lookout. And on yachts, you don't really have that. And sadly, even some of the masters, some of the captains are the problem, are the actual perpetrators. So, which leads me to my next question. So, before I even go to the next question, I basically want to summarize that in yachts, because the regulation is so open or none, let's say, it is really up to the captain to start implementing some sort of looking out for outside training to train themselves and crew members, and hopefully you know, management companies and all these people start thinking uh, how to implement a training into this. And I think maritime schools also are part of the problem because they should implement this in their schooling to a better program, because they probably have something, but it's so lightly that it doesn't really make that much of a difference. So now, with the next question that I had was the procedures. So, you know, I saw a little video of MLC, which is, I think it was really good because it tells you like all the ways that you can complain, right? That you can put forward a complaint. And that's obviously talking to your safety officer, talking to the master, talking to the HR, talking to the port state flag, or I mean the port state, then to the flag state. These are some of the ones that I can remember. And obviously you can go even to do anything that you want. You know, it could be go to the police station. You know, it's up to you. Just talk about it. So what's the when you are in a yacht on a small vessel, let's say, you know, like a 50 meter, and there's only a first officer, the captain, and that's pretty much your two big guys, right? And maybe the chief engineer, and one of them is the problem, and you go talk to the master and you say, you know, this is happening with the chief engineer or whatever, and they say, well, we can't do anything about it. What do you then do next? Who's the next person you should talk to?
Office.
So
I
you
mean,
should, and what if they don't have a management
someone from the office should be. Oh well, I know. I notice on the yacht sometimes, you know, the captain is everything. The captain is, I mean, the person who has the lot of power. And then, of course, on the ships, on a cruise ship, you have the power. On a cargo ship, you have the power. You have the responsibility. But I mean, at the same time, you have, as a crew member, the number to reach people from the office immediately. This is called the hotline. But this is about the company. So company provides it, and it's telling you when you are coming on board, okay, if somebody is abusing, if somebody is treating you in the wrong way, if somebody is just trying to get some sexual favor from your side, this is the hotline. Call
so
24/7, and then you will get immediately
have a
assistance.
hotline?
Hotline is, but this is a company's number.
Right, but what
Oh,
if this yacht doesn't have a management company, because the manager is also the captain?
yeah. That's
So
the
who do
very.
you reach? Do you reach the owner? Is that the next person to reach, or should you go to the marine officer port?
Well, if you are in a port and you have authorities, every single yacht doesn't matter. Authorities, Coast Guard, Maritime Authority, they are also in charge to receive any complaint, any formal complaint, just to react. And then, of course, always will be an investigation. Now is part of the system are the CCTV system. So cameras are all over the yachts, the ships. So then you can at least recheck. Some of the majority of those are not including audio, of course, only on the very critical areas. But actually, there is a case on a ship that the staff captain was trying to, and this was happening on the bridge. Staff
Mm.
captain was trying to, abuse, to go way forward from using his power for one of the ladies working on the spa. She was very young and he was kind of old. And the best way to check that she was, telling the truth was to check the cameras on the bridge. And on the bridge, they have audio as well. So it was a big process because in order just to check the VDR, which is the voyage data recorder, it was kind of investigation, authorization from the company to pull out and to check. And then they realized that she was telling the truth because he was using, language, body language and all stuff. So, but this is also depends on the situation. On a yacht that you don't have enough support on board, you need to find support shoreside. If it's not from the company authority, that's what I think.
Okay.
But
Do
you
you
need to
know of
be,
any support that you can advise crew members of?
that's going to be maritime. Always crew members need to understand, depends of the country, who are the maritime authority, who is the port captain on this area. So in order just to make sure where to go, because this is also about jurisdictions. Some countries, they have the police, but the police, they don't have jurisdiction on board. So this is also depends on how the country is working. Some of the countries, you are going to inform the police that you are experiencing a problem, and then maybe it's not the best authority. Then you need to go to the Navy, or then you need to go to the Coast Guard because they have the department in charge to manage this kind of complaints. So this is also variable. It's nothing like, okay, always will be the police. Police can assist, of course.
And is there like some sort of cheat sheet where it says per country who's in charge of all this?
Normally it's easy. You check on internet. Maritime authority is the keywords. Maritime authority in Bahamas, maritime
Okay.
authority in Cayman Islands, maritime authority, and then you will see who is in charge. Maritime authority is. You can read, Navy, you can read the Minister of Defense, you can read the Minister of Transportation, you can read police. So maritime authority will be in charge.
Okay. And what would be the on a yacht, obviously, because I know that on a ship is a little bit different, the procedures, because there's so many more regulations. On a yacht, what would be the best procedure to follow if a crew member is being abused in any way? Um, like, is it writing down dates, what happened, telling somebody so there's some sort of evidence? So basically, kind of like creating evidence and then going to the next person in charge that you feel comfortable with. If that doesn't work out, then going to maybe the port or the maritime, or calling the flag state. What's your advice on that sense? Like, what would be the best procedure to follow?
There are a lot of numbers. Actually, I don't remember now, but if you check online, there are some numbers that is for special emergencies or problems on board. Actually, this kind of national hotlines. I'm not sure if this number is working. I mean, effectively, but I know that there are some numbers. Actually, if you just check online, you will see that there are some numbers assisting people or crew member who is experiencing some problems on cargo ship, especially cargo ships is a lot also.
Yes.
And I remember a case. I was on a container ship, reefer container ship in 2003, and we had a captain who was not really the best. And we had an officer from Philippines, and this captain was not in a really good mood to him, especially. The relationship was really bad. But this guy, this Filipino guy, looks like he found a way to get a record machine. So whatever was happening on the bridge during his watch, he was recording. He had on his pocket this small machine. So he never say anything. Then on arrival on the port, we got the authorities on board, we got people from the office, and he already managed. And we are talking about the time that we didn't have internet, 2001, 2002, pretty much. We didn't have this technology that we have at the moment. So he managed to fire the captain using this because when they rechecked the tape, because this was on tape, what was happening on during his watch looked like the captain was coming to see him midnight. And then I'm not sure what was exactly the details, but I knew that the captain was fired because he managed to find, you know, a way to prove that he was under a lot of labor
Recording
harassment.
is so easy. We can do these days with an iPhone. You know, you can put the
Yes,
record, the memory record, you can put it in your pocket. And if you know you're going to be exposed to that situation because it's something recurrent, you can actually record it.
yeah. At the moment now, it's pretty much easy. It's not like in the old times. And so,
So
but
again,
this is something that happened.
before we go, I kind of want to go back to the procedure of, you know, you as a captain, what is your recommendation for people, for any crew member who may be dealing with some sort of harassment, some sort of abuse, even mental health? What would be the procedure to follow to get help?
In the beginning, of course, you need to just try to stay clear, try to avoid contact or be alone with this
So
person
prevent.
to prevent. And then if it's escalating, of course, you need to find a way to inform someone from the office is the first thing. From the office is the first thing. If you have connection in the office, that's going to be the best. The only reason that you need to go to the authorities is because there is no other way. Nobody available from the office, nothing to do. I mean, because problems need to solve internally at the company. In the beginning, you need to solve internally. I mean, you need to approach to the person who is treating you bad. Hey, I think this is going to be the first step. Trying to solve the problem. I mean, you and me, that's it. If this is not happening, escalate to the next supervisor. If it's not happening locally, internally on the ship, try to find someone from the office. If nobody is available on the office, then you need to go to the authorities.
To the port out
But
there.
yeah, because sometimes you just need someone is just treating you bad, then you go
Do
very,
you think, do you think it's important to call the flag state, or it doesn't really matter?
but that's gonna be, I mean, one of the, if it's really, really bad, I mean, go, that's gonna be the last option. What you need to avoid is just to go straight away to that. If you know your rights, if you just learn about a little bit about where to contact, who to contact from the office, from the authority, or a little bit about your rights,
And
then
yeah,
you can just talk firmly. Okay, I am experiencing a really bad situation with you. I'm telling you, please stop. Okay, I'm here for working. This is my job. This is your job. I mean, your position should be different. So I asking you to do or to change or whatever is necessary. So I know about this. This is my right. I don't want to be calling this number. I don't want to be, I mean, I want to just be working. That's going to be the first approach. You need to solve the
so
problem with
when
the
you talk
person.
about knowing your rights, which I totally agree, and what I found in yachting is that most of the people do not know their rights at all. Not that there's many, but there are some that are implemented. And so when you join a vessel, it is, I believe, right? You should be able to talk to the captain and say prior to getting hired, say, hey, can you show me what's the policy of sexual harassment? Can you show me what's the policy
Yes, of course, of
of
course.
mental health?
This should be part of the policy. This is something, and it's because this is another. I'm not sure about the International Safety Management Code is enforced on a private yacht. I'm not sure, but on a if it's passenger ship or a charter ship for sure. So then it's written everything, which is also about your principal. This is a guideline also to manage the ship, and at the same time, it's reading about the alcohol policy, drugs policy, and also behave on board. So it's totally written, and you are a document for that. You are getting a training for that. The
Yeah.
International Safety Management Code, which is also supporting all these future problems.
Exactly. But obviously that this is like commercial licensed vessels.
Hmm.
We're talking more about smaller vessels that are not commercially regulated. This is obviously something that the management company or the owner and the captain between the flag state, they have to decide, I guess, what how
But
they're
every single boat or ship, it doesn't matter if it's very. I mean, you need to have some kind of policy, although something. And it's of course, if you are working and dealing with people which is coming to work, for sure you need to have a policy. So the policy must be okay. If you are as a crew member asking, you need to know about the policy, company's policy, what is written there. Then you read, you understand, and then of course you need to bring up some questions if you really want to go a little bit deeply. But at the same time, you need to know about where is the ship going, which are the ports that we can expect to be, and also one of the crew members needs to understand that you know the surrounding is sometimes the atmosphere depends of us as well. We need to know the people on board. We need to just become like a little bit how can I explain in in English is you just check the people, you understand the people, and you read the people. You need to learn how to read the people also,
right.
not just to act properly.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many variables here. And I think all this comes down to really, as a crew member, taking responsibility and doing your, educating yourself on your rights before you accept a job. What are the policies? Asking the right questions. Who are your HR? Who is your safety line? All this stuff prior to getting on the boat. That way, when you do get on the boat, you are not all of a sudden surprised with something and then not know what to do, which is pretty much what happens all the time because
But
people haven't educated themselves.
but it's supposed to be also on the contract when you're signing the contract. This is also because you when you write a contract, you sign. Normally, you have your contract is not only one page. Normally, you have 2, 3 pages,
Yes,
both
but
sides. So
also
then
remember that some boats don't have contracts
I
because
can't
they don't
believe it,
have to comply.
and that's why it's
Depending on your
like
flag state,
it's
especially
not
obviously I'm
regulated.
talking non-commercial license.
Hmm.
Depending on your flag states, you don't. It's not actually. They don't have to give you a contract. I do know that flags like Cayman, like red flags and uh, what's another one like Malta, like the most used ones, Jamaica, all those ones, they are required to give you a contract, um, but some of them don't. So this is where it gets really tricky, right? Where it's
Hmm.
like, who's your flag state? Who's this? Who's that? What regulation? What license? It's just crazy how this whole shit is not really regulated.
Yeah, yeah. Because when I've been on a yacht, I had a contract always.
Yes,
So it's,
yes.
hmm.
But it was also, yeah, it was definitely a bigger yacht, the one that we were on, compared to, like something like a 30 meter,
Hmm.
that basically like I had a lady came on the show and she talked about her sexual harassment experience and she had to go to court and all this, and basically she was on a US flag vessel, on a small vessel, and she didn't have a contract, and it was the owner who was the perpetrator, and basically they said to her, you're screwed, like nothing's here, nothing, there's no law that's going to back you up, because the Jones Act also didn't apply to her because she wasn't on a commercial vessel and all this shit. So it's kind of like, yeah, if you don't have a contract, you're pretty much screwed. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
do not work without one. That's the number one thing for sure. Um, well, thank you so much, Pablo. This has been very good for me, for everybody who had a few questions, and I'm sure
Oh,
more questions for a lot of people. But this gives them definitely a guideline to where they should start looking at prior to boarding a yacht. That way, they can prevent instead of lament. Is that even a word in English? I don't even know. That is definitely one in Spanish. So yeah, I think knowledge is the key. Education is the key here. Because if you don't have that, then you're on your own basically and trying to figure out shit probably after something really bad happened to you, which is your mental health is not there anymore, so it's a little bit harder to find your way. So you did talk about hotlines, and before I go, I do want to say that at least I know of a hotline called Seafarers Help .org or .com. I think .org, and they do have a 24/7 seafarers line that you can call, not only for the seafarer, but also for the family members of the seafarer. They're based in the UK, and they're actually coming to the show in the next few weeks because they are implementing a safety hotline for yachts because they have seen that there is the need for it. So we will be talking a little bit more about that with them. But thank you for bringing it up because there are hotlines out there. You just need to look for them, basically. You also have to, educate yourself. You can't just expect somebody to hand you all this information, even though it will be really nice that the captain will be like, here. But if the captain is a perpetrator, he will never hand you this information anyway. So, so anything you want to add before we go?
Well, no, thank you very much. It's been also a nice experience. I hope it's helpful for some people. And of course, this is something and it still is changing, it's updating. And of course, regulations are still necessary, and also people now, it's easy to read, it's easy to understand, it's easy to learn about your rights. And then of course you need to be smart enough to make sure that the job that you're going to get could be good, or maybe you're going to be under risk.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's prevention, right? Like learning what you're getting yourself into, that way you can prevent. Or
you check the option, you check the job, you see, no, this is something and it's not covering aspects that should be important. I mean, I'm going to be working along with 2-3 people. So, okay, I have necessity, but maybe this could be risky. So this is also that we need to check. Not only, sometimes people is very getting excited, and then you are not getting exactly what is involving all to be working on a boat at sea in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
Suddenly, if it's a lady alone with 2-3 guys there, so that's something also you need to start checking and learning. Okay, and read the whole area, the whole situation, reading the people. So this also, especially if there is no contract, there is no regulation, there is nothing that you have the chance to be, I'm going to be safe. So
yeah. And I like that what you said, because like, for example, I heard of a story of this, big boats with where they have safety, security and all this for the owners, and they always tell the ladies crew members, do not ever be alone on any room. You always have to be in pairs or 3 girls together, because the security officer are actually the ones that are perpetrating doing the things. But my and then I don't even understand, if you hear this, why would you say, oh yeah, sure, I'll take that job? It's like, what the fuck? So if you do decide to take the risk, then that's on you.
Yeah, this is
because
up to you.
You were told and you were advised that this is something that you could potentially experience. So yeah.
Just to give you an example, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago actually, I was proposed to be part of a crew on a ship that they supposed to bring from Africa, and this ship was gonna be crossing the Somalia coast, the Aden Gulf, and this was the time that the piracy was on the top, and they said that they were paying good, but of course was a very risky job. Yeah. When I say, what about the contracts? Contract was supposed to be a job only for 2 months, less than 2 months, 6 weeks. I said, no, thank you, because I noticed that it was risky, not, so many warranties. I didn't have, the chance to say, no, that's going to be good money in 6 weeks. I'm going to be safe. Not at all. No, I didn't accept.
Exactly. So really doing your, educating yourself and, becoming aware of what the risk is and what you actually are okay with risking. So again, thank you so much. And that is a wrap. I'm so happy that you say yes, because we have talked a lot about different things regarding salaries and mental health and sexual well, not just sexual, just any type of harassment and abuse on board. So I think there's a lot of good tips here for everybody to take with them. And yeah, if you have anything to say, anything you want to share, any wisdom you want to pass, and you want to be part of the Uncensored show, remember you can email me. The link is down below the video. And yeah, fair winds to everybody. Until next time.
Thank you, Marien. All the best.
Bye.
Bye bye.